Hey everyone, this is the Millennial Investor doing a video on a new type of investment I've been looking into, so I'm going to give it a try. They are known as Series I bonds, and it's a special type of savings account that has some benefits over typical savings accounts. So I'm going to give it a try, and if you are interested in it, then you're going to want to check out TreasuryDirect.gov because that's where you can go ahead and get started with those. But what exactly is a Series I bond? Well, if I had to break it down, I would say that it is a typical savings account, but you have two different types of interest on it. You have a fixed rate that is determined by Treasury Direct, and it's usually around 0.1 or 0.2%. Not a lot, but more than Bank of America. And it also has something known as an inflation rate, or money typically just has something known as inflation rate. So as time goes by, the inflation rate reduces the value of money. And that can vary. So this is pretty variable. I don't know how to, I guess if I write vary like that, and that's going to vary. And I bonds actually take that fixed rate and that inflation rate, and it combines them together to create what is known as a composite rate. And that is the interest rate that your money is going to be earning for the next 6 months. So for savings I bonds, the interest rate is determined semi-annually, and your money is compounded semi-annually, even though you're going to receive interest payments every month. So you're getting payments every month, but it's already been determined. It's been predetermined by that rate, and that interest you make isn't going to be earning interest. It's not compounding until that 6-month mark or that semi-annual mark. So to show you exactly what that means, I'm going to pull up a graph, and I'm going to show you this graph, where I'm going to put it in the description. So if you ever want to check it out, you can, and it should up to date itself every 6 months. So it should be up to date even if you're viewing this video like 5 years from now. Okay, the graph's going to look something like this. And it goes on for the length or the duration of how long I bonds have existed for. So I believe it began in '98. And it's pretty cool, this graph, but let me show you how it works. This is that fixed rate I was talking about, 0.1%. And I actually purchased $100 worth of I bonds. And if you purchase $100 of I bonds, it's currently worth $100 until it starts making money. You never purchase it for more than it's actually worth. So I purchased $100 and at 5 of the 10th, I believe. So about a month ago from today. And the fixed rate was 0.1, and the inflation rate for the period, for that May 16 period, because inflation, that semi-annual mark, happens every May and every November. So for that 6 months, the inflation rate was determined on average to be 0.08. So they take that inflation rate, they combine it with the fixed rate to create the composite rate. So for those 6 months, I was earning 0.26% APY. And you might be thinking like, well, Millennial, 0.26 APY isn't that good when I could have been investing it in a typical savings account and earning 1%. Yes, that is true. But let's take a look at, had the money been invested earlier. So the rate, like I said, is going to change every 6 months. Had you invested that money in November, then for those 6 months, you'd have been earning 1.64% APY. And then it would shift to the new rate. So the rate that you get is going to be variable. It's going to change every 6 months as that compounding occurs. And if there was, let's say, no inflation, like over here we actually have a negative inflation, there is no gain to the money. So you might be like, oh, that's awful. I could have made 1% or something on that. Yes, it does happen. But typically in the long run, if you take a look at this graph and those trends, you're going to notice that the longer your money's invested, because inflation is going to happen, it's pretty much absolute. Like, you can be earning interest. The earlier you start this account, the more potential interest you can make when others are not. So, had you invested this money at the start of when these savings I bond accounts were being issued, you could be making 3.46% right now. That is better than any CD. That is better than any savings account. And that's better than a lot of stocks in the stock market. So this is something to consider. The earlier you start this, then you have that bonus. Now, there are some cons to this, so I'm going to kind of mention what those are. The first is that you can only invest $10,000 per year into a savings I bond account, or into your savings I bond. You can only purchase $10,000 of them. If you want to purchase more, you can purchase something known as savings EE bonds, but they're not as good. Or at least currently they're not as good, and I don't really want to focus on those because I'm nowhere near hitting that $10,000 mark. Okay, the other downside is that you kind of have to treat it like a CD for the first year of its life. If I invested $5,000, you cannot touch that money until 1 year after the issue date of that I bond that you purchased. So you have to wait a year on the money and on the interest, and then you can remove the money from your Treasury Direct account. Now, if you remove it after a year, you're going to have to pay a 3-month penalty on that money. So you're going to have to pay 3 months penalty. But you know that might not be the worst thing. 3 months. And if you don't want to pay any penalty, you don't have to. You just have to wait 5 years. And if you wait 5 years, then you can withdraw that original investment. You can withdraw all the interest, and you will not pay any penalties on it. So it is a more long-term investment, and that's why people don't use these over savings accounts. Maybe for an emergency fund, this would be perfectly fine, but for a typical savings account where you might be wanting to make some withdrawals every month, then Series I bonds might not be the best choice. Now, there are also some additional benefits to Series I bonds other than that variable rate, that composite rate. And the big one is that all taxes are deferred on interest. So you only need to pay taxes on your interest when you've actually removed your money from your Treasury Direct account. While it is sitting there, while it is compounding, for those 30 years, you can leave your money in there and it will compound interest for 30 years. Yes, when the 30 years is up, you will have to pay taxes on it, but you can always just take that and reissue it back into another 30-year note or 30-year bond and continue that going. It's only when you actually withdraw that money to try to use it that you have to pay those taxes on it. But another but is you don't have to pay. You pay federal taxes on that interest, but you do not pay state taxes. And that's a huge plus because normal savings accounts are treated like normal income. You have to pay federal and you have to pay state. But not only are your taxes deferred, but you only pay federal taxes and you do not pay state. So you're also making a little extra on top of that already nice bonus. So those are the pros and those are the cons. I definitely think it's something worth trying out. And I'm also going to have a video showing you my account and how to get started. But hopefully you found this video useful and you might be considering Series I bonds. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'm going to add this chart to the video. And if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe because I will be having updates on Series I bonds about every 6 months or so. Okay, this is the Millennial Investor signing out. Peace.